My name is Esme. I am 22 years old. It all started years ago, when my dad betrayed everything I thought I knew about family. Like many of us, I grew up believing in the fairy tale, the perfect family. But that dream was shattered the day I found out my father had cheated on my mom with the woman who would later become my stepmother. I still remember the day my parents' marriage ended. The pain in my mom's eyes, the silence that filled our home, and the weight of the knowledge that my dad, the man who was supposed to protect us, had been living a lie. He had hurt her. And me. And I couldn't just pretend that didn't matter. Now, picture this, my dad remarried the woman he'd cheated on my mom with. The woman who was, for a long time, the source of so much anger in me. How could he do that to us? How could he replace our family with her? I couldn't look at her the same way ever again. Every encounter with her was cold, distant. I didn't want to be near her. But, as time went on, I started to realize that I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at him too. But most of all, I was angry at myself for not knowing how to cope with all of it. It was a year later. My dad was driving me to the airport. I was about to leave for a trip, a chance to get away from the tension, the hurt, and everything. He was quiet, which was unusual for him. He seemed nervous. Then, out of nowhere, my stepmother decided to take the day off from work. She was coming to the airport to meet us. Now, let me tell you something, I wasn't prepared for this. Not one bit. I had built up walls so high between us, I figured she would never try to break through. But as I walked toward the exit, there she was, standing there, waiting. And, like it or not, I couldn't ignore her. She walked up to me, and, without saying a word, she wrapped me in a hug. It was unexpected. But in that moment, something inside of me cracked. She whispered in my ear, "I'm so proud of you." I stepped back from the hug, unsure of how to react. I was still angry. I was still hurt. But when I looked at her face, something changed. She wasn't just my dad's wife anymore. She was a person. A real, genuine person. Her eyes weren't filled with malice. They were filled with something unexpected. That was the moment I saw her as a human being. She wasn't the enemy anymore. She wasn't the woman who'd broken up my family. She was just someone who had, in her own way, tried to make things better. And that's when I saw it. The truth that I had been hiding from myself for so long. I'd been so focused on the hurt that I couldn't see the healing. And that's when I saw it. The truth that I had been hiding from myself for so long. I'd been so focused on the hurt that I couldn't see the healing. After that day, things didn't magically get better. I didn't suddenly love my stepmother, but I started to realize something important. Holding on to anger, it wasn't helping me. It was just holding me back. There were times when I still felt the sting of betrayal. But, little by little, I began to see her not as the villain, but as a person trying to make amends. She'd never take my mom's place, and she'd never undo the damage done. But in the quiet moments, when we spoke, when she listened, I began to see the power of not reacting. Of letting go. Now, you might be thinking, this is nice and all, but can you really just forgive someone that easily? Well, no. It's not easy. It's not instant. It took time, patience, and, honestly, it took facing the fear of feeling vulnerable. Because when you forgive, you risk getting hurt again. You risk opening yourself up to more pain. But, here's the thing, sometimes, forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about freeing yourself. And I'll be honest, I wasn't perfect. There were days when I still resented her. But I stopped letting that resentment define me. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. So, what's the point of all of this? Maybe it's to remind you that forgiveness isn't something you can schedule or decide on in a moment. It takes time. It takes facing your own fears. It takes being willing to let go. But, most of all, it takes courage. And sometimes, forgiveness comes from the most unexpected places. From the people we never thought would offer it. So, next time you feel the sting of betrayal, or the weight of anger, ask yourself, are you willing to let go? Or are you going to let it continue to define you? Because, in the end, it's not about whether or not they deserve your forgiveness. It's about whether or not you deserve peace. And, I promise you this, you do. Thank you for listening. Stay strong. And remember, sometimes, the hardest things we face are the very things that help us grow.